Good evening, everyone. Oh, God, I look like a school marm with these glasses on, which I suppose is appropriate. Good evening and welcome to Soul School. Uh, Classes in session, and I know someone who's tardy, but that's okay. He's got teenage kids that need to be chauffeured around, so Jeff will join us when he gets home, hopefully at some point before the end of the show. Bless his sweetheart. Yeah, kids. So glad I didn't have any. Not that they aren't lovely. I'm sure they're lovely. And everybody out there that's got kids, please don't write to me and go, oh God, I am happy with my peanut butter cup. There she lays on her purple pillow, the princess pillow. So apparently she's just going to sleep through class again. And, it seems to do her okay. She's pretty smart. She gets through life just fine. So, who's to cast dispersions on the puppy. Uh, it always feels strange at the end of the show when I say class dismissed. Of course, the hour is over and it was just our time to be together on Soul School on our Friday night slot. But, I've talked many times about how class is perpetually in session. And, even when we're sleeping, sometimes we're learning, we're, tapping into our subconscious mind and we're having experiences that way. Sometimes we have spiritual visitations. The human mind, not just the brain, the organ, the brain, but the human mind is just an amazing format and a way for us to connect with the universe. I think that there is one divine mind, that there's a singular mind that we all tap into, um, which is why there are some scientists who say that there are no original thoughts left in the world, that all we're doing now is taking the thoughts that we've already processed and using them to a more full extent. And that could be, I don't know. It's not something I've invested a great deal of thought into, frankly. I'm too busy and too preoccupied, I guess, with thinking thoughts about life as it is now and all that we've been through in the last few years, all the changes that are occurring. The paradigm shift is well underway. Oh, what a ride it's been. Show of hands in class. How many of you have been through it in the last few years? I know I have. I know I have. Um, and yet I feel very fulfilled and I feel like I'm where I belong right now. I'm doing exactly what I should be doing, taking care of my mother and my sister, and, investing my time and my energy into the people that I love most in the world. And when you're in a position to be able to do that and actually be with those that you cherish the most, it is a great gift. It is a great blessing. And so I certainly do feel very blessed at this time in my life. But tonight, what I wanted to do was talk about patience. That would be that thing that my father has zero of, zero, like zero, zero. And I would be the one who is the opposite. Um, I'm so patient that I almost appear lazy. You all know I've written 6 books in 10 years. I'm not lazy, but I have, I guess, a philosophy of life that I've shared with you many times here. And that's very simply stated: when it all gets to be too much as you're trying to navigate the river of life and often swim against the current, which is utterly exhausting and can eventually drown you, the best thing to do is flip over and float. So, over the last 8 months or so, while I've been here in Georgia with my mother and my sister Christine, and my sister Cindy lives just down the road. She was here for several hours today. It was so peaceful and quiet and loving and kind. And, mom actually got out of bed for a few hours. That's huge. And came and joined us in the parlor, and we had a really wonderful talk or yell because mom's a little hard of hearing, and she won't wear her hearing aids, refuses. So yeah, we just yelled at mom for a few hours, and she enjoyed every moment of it, and it was a wonderful, wonderful day. But I also had something else happen today. Um, and that is, all of you, well, most, I would assume most of you who know me know that I've been throughout COVID working on several different film projects that could be navigated without risking one's life, taking proper protocols and so on. And these films are now coming to fruition, all back to back, which is so strange. And um, I've waited a long time. I mean, I did my part of the projects um, months and years ago. I mean, my last contribution was probably 3 or 4 months ago, and my producer came here to Atlanta to work with me here because I couldn't leave. Well, these are all coming into the pipeline now, one after another, all with the same director and the same producer. Uh, and now that, three of the four, one of them is completely done, and three of the four are in post. So, the final stages of editing and so on. And it's just thrilling to have received that phone call this afternoon and being told that, this is coming and this is coming and that is coming. And so between September 5th and October 5th, after waiting for the better part of 2 years to see all of this come together, the last big filming that I did for one of the particular projects was last November in Nevada at the Star Works Symposium. So that my work, the phrase "my work here is done." Okay, well, it's never really done because once the film has been processed and edited, and all of the notations are put in, and all of the credits are in, and everybody that worked on it is, included, and it's time to review it, then I have to go frame by frame through each film to make sure that it is to my personal standards, the message that I wanted to impart in my work with my producer Serena. Well, I've seen the first one now, and it's called Beyond the Grave. And today I found out that even though the distributor technically has ownership of it now, he has allowed me to, or allowed Serena and her tech staff to splice out about maybe 20 minutes of it or so that we can show it as an exclusive sneak preview at the Upper Peninsula, Michigan Paracon, which I will be at next weekend. Not this coming weekend, as in tomorrow. No, I would be there already if that were the case. But next weekend, I will be in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, at the Upper Peninsula, Michigan Paracon, which is, to my knowledge, the largest Paracon in the country. And I will get to do a sneak preview of this work that I'm so proud of in front of, 1,000 or more people that will be laying eyes on it for the first time. And I have to say that I'm thrilled to be able to share it with my friends. Um, but it was also a case in point for me, a little bit of a reaffirmation that patience is a wonderful thing. I have not been wringing my hands. I have not been suffering any anxiety around these four projects. And today I was just told that I will have my own 10 episode show, and we'll start filming that in December. Maybe it's just my sense of humor, but the first thing I said was, why couldn't we have done this 10 or 15 years ago when I was thinner and less wrinkled? I mean, really, if timing is everything, you had to wait till I was an old lady to do it. I mean, I'll be 65 by then. My birthday's in October. Um, but I also think that because of my life experience, now I'm prepared for this. And I'm not afraid to impart anything that I've experienced or shared with others because I'm just past the point of caring who thinks what. It's not my job to convince anybody or coerce anybody into believing anything. I'm not here for everyone. I'm aware of that. But everybody that's watching this right now, I think could probably say the same thing. If you've gravitated to this show, then you are seeking a fuller, more expansive approach to life and are very curious and fascinated by existence as a whole, not only into elements of the paranormal for sure, but also some very well aware of the existence of our galactic family. And so you're with what some refer to as the tribe, our clan, our group, birds of a feather. Like minded individuals do tend to flock together. Um, and I've been very patient about every aspect of my life, not just professionally. And it's not that I'm just sitting around and waiting for things to happen. I don't do that. I pursue my goals and I know what I want to share. And I have a very good sense of who I can trust to do that with. And so far, that has been very beneficial in terms of getting my messages, my various messages out, whether it be about our experiences at the farmhouse when I was a child or experiences I've had since, certainly my intergalactic connections, uh, all of it, all of it. And I've been so blessed in that I've still been able to live a relatively anonymous life. uh, can come and go as I please, can go shopping, and every now and then I'll get recognized, but it's just sweet and it's nice, and I'll chat with whomever recognizes me and then move on, and it's not a big deal. I have the opportunity to interact with the real world, the people of the real world, without freaking them out. you know? They don't know who I am. Yay. That's a good thing. That's really a really great thing about being an author, predominantly. People don't recognize you. It's great. Um, but I've just, especially through COVID changed my perspective in a lot of ways. And I think it was because I associate that period with so much grief and loss and death that it left me staid and somber, um, really very sad to the core. And now facing what we do with mom, it's uh, it's like it never stopped. It just came home. And, my mom survived COVID, which is amazing, absolutely amazing, but she did. And she'll be 84 years old on August 24th. So, in a few days, we get to celebrate a milestone for her. It's wonderful. And she too has patiently gone through every day, no matter what it brought, and has taught me to be calm, carry on, the old British stiff upper lip notion. Keep calm, carry on. Um, but it really is a, a fundamental choice that we make. We can fight our way through every day, or we can just relax and sit back. When COVID first hit, I got some messages which I shared. I mean, we didn't have this show going yet, but it's hot in here. Oof. Um, but in many different venues, I let people know that I had received messages. I had received certain messages um, that were meant for me to impart and meant to help with this horrific pandemic. The first one was 6 feet separation is not enough, which I instinctively kind of knew, just not enough. And the second one was don't eat what you want, eat what you crave. And there is a difference between the two. And so I told thousands of people about that. Don't eat what you want, eat what you crave, what your body is craving, because it will help ward off, it'll keep your immune system as strong as it can be to fight off the inevitable. Um, and the last one was to I was trying to remember exactly how it came to me. Um, it was about separating yourself from the world, but out of sheer necessity. We all isolated to the extent we were able to keep ourselves as safe as possible. But the message was, basically go ahead and isolate yourself from the world, but reconnect with Earth. And a lot of people did that. I did a lot of events online trying to stay in touch and be an outlet for people to talk about their fears and their losses, the pain of all of it, the insecurity of all of it, the fear of all of it. So I did a lot of events online for months and months, and tried to be in touch with as many people as I could in that amount of time, just to do my part to help reassure them and that we would get through this, that this was the paradigm shift, that this was foretold, that we can get through if we just bond together, even if that occurs at a distance, a safe distance. um, and even though the whole world likes to pretend now that COVID is over, of course it's not going anywhere. It's still around. It's still the third leading cause of death. um, we've just, as a society, at least in this country, seemingly we've moved on. And many of us have had it at least once, if not more. Most of us have had vaccines. We feel relatively safe from its ravages now, and perhaps that is true. I mean, it's COVID is an individual disease. It reacts in every host differently. Um, but I don't sense that same element of fear around it. that I did 3 years ago. Certainly, I think anybody would admit that we've made our adjustments to it. We are keenly aware that it's still circulating and that it's not really going anywhere. It's with us forever. And much like, flu strains change every year. And, we hope we get the right vaccine, but who knows? Um, and I had to be very patient through that period because, of course, everything was shut down, everything. All the work that I was doing with my friend Jeff, not Jeff Turner, but my other Jeff Ward, seemed to come to an abrupt halt. Everybody was worried where their next paycheck was coming from. It was awful in terms of, the people that we have to work with in Hollywood and so on and so forth. They were um, holed up as well. So we faced that. And then coming out of that, when everything started to feel like it was picking back up and we were getting work done, and now we're in the middle of a SAG-AFTRA writer's strike. So the only work that I can do can be absolutely non-scripted. That is all that I can do, and that's fine because that's what I do. I never use a script. I never use any kind of prompter. I never use um, what comes out of me that goes to you. That's organic. It's natural. Sometimes it's I would say probably a form of channeling. I don't even remember what I've said. It just comes out like down and through. And that's fine. I'm perfectly comfortable with that. But I found that over the course of this period of time, I had no choice but to become a more patient person and just wait it out. Uh, you know, in my books, I wrote about Sam Olivson, who was a dear friend of our family attorney, but also a close friend. And uh, when we moved to the farm, and my mother told him that she had made a terrible mistake and that the place was haunted and we had to get out of there, he came up to the house and he said to her, when in doubt, do nothing. When in doubt, do nothing. Now, that might seem counterintuitive, but I don't think that it is. I think that it gives each of us a chance to step back and to examine any given situation for what it is, what it means, what its outcome could conceivably be if we do or we don't do something around any given situation. And so that's what mom decided to do, which was nothing. Dad didn't believe her. He just wanted to just close it out like it didn't exist. And, uh, with the rest of us, all we could do was allow ourselves to have the experience. We couldn't really go into high panic mode. We were just little kids and we were seeing things and experiencing things that none of us had ever encountered before. But we had each other, the children, we had each other. My sisters would come to me and tell me things all the time. Eventually, I felt like I needed to tell my mom, and I did. And she called Sam and had him come up to the house because she had been having her own experiences, which obviously she wasn't sharing with her children. But when she found out that we were having experiences that we weren't sharing with her because she already seemed so distressed, that was kind of her breaking point. And that's when he came and he offered her that advice in the spring of our first year at the farm. When in doubt, do nothing. If you don't understand all of the dynamics of a situation, it's perfectly acceptable to let it unfold. Uh, I think of life sometimes as a very elaborate piece of art of origami. And if you want to see the original piece of paper that this artwork came from, you have to very gently unfold each piece that has been layered onto the others to reveal the entire tapestry in a single piece of paper. It really is the most amazing art form, but I think it's also a really wonderful metaphor for life, at least for my life. It seems to work for me. So when I when I feel lost, when I feel that all I can do is step back and observe what's happening, interact when necessary, but also give myself the freedom to step back and watch what's happening and process it in a way that I'm patient with myself because it's a lot to take in. Anyone who has been through what our family is going through right now would have to agree that they've never, unless they've already lost a parent and cared for that parent, then they don't know until it actually happens. Uh, but I also learned how incredibly kind and generous of spirit people are when we lost my sister April in March of 2017. And we had an outpouring of sympathy and heartfelt condolences from all around the world. Tens of thousands of people wrote to my family, us as individuals, or to the Perron family to express their deepest sympathies. Um, and I learned then to be open enough and receptive enough, in spite of how much pain you're enduring, to receive that goodwill, that, the very best of intentions from people, because it really does help and it really will lift you up. In other words, you can isolate yourself like in the midst of a pandemic, but we have so many different ways to pursue outreach with others that, the real irony is the only way to show somebody how much you love them in the age of COVID is to stay the hell away from them. But that's not the case anymore. And I think that as we started to come back together as families and as a society, and dare to go out with our friends again, dare to go out to a movie, dare to go grocery shopping and not feel too bad if you forgot your mask in the car. Um, we're learning, we're adapting to our environment and the new dynamics and the shift that is underway. We have different perspectives now on ourselves and each other, and we were all put in a position simultaneously where we were equally susceptible to this dreadful virus. We all had to protect ourselves and our families to the best of our ability by staying away from other human beings that could be carriers, or to protect them from us in case we were the carriers. Also, a big deal because it often manifests in ways that you don't know you have it until it's too late and you've already spread it. Very sneaky virus in that respect, for sure. But I think that it taught us patience. I think that not only did it reactivate um, one of our greatest qualities and attributes as human beings is our emotions regarding empathy and sympathy for each other. Sympathy for when somebody's going through something that you haven't gone through, but you still feel for them in spite of not having had that identical experience. Empathy is when you are literally able to put yourself in their shoes and feel their pain. Uh, that's harder. And I noticed over the last few decades, as I've gotten older and been around the world some, I've noticed that the way things were when I was a child, among our friends and family, how we interacted with each other then has changed societally, and there are many, many people who just seem to have shut that part of themselves off and seem incapable of feeling for others, putting themselves in the position that they witness others being in, and therefore being able to offer a different kind of a camaraderie, more than a shoulder to cry on, but to be able to look them in the face and say, yes, I understand. I really understand. And I think that's part of, I hate to say it, but the benefit of what we've been through. Um, and it is a benefit. I think that the thing I worry about is that we've made that reconnection with each other in this really profound and significant way. And I don't want us to lose that sense. Um, I don't want us to forget how it felt. Um, I'll give you a case in point. In March of 2020, when everybody was in a panic. Our neighbors, Craig and Dorothy, called us one day, and Craig said, I'm gonna tough it out. I'm going to Publix. I'm going to the grocery store. If there's anything you need at all, anything that you need, for my father and myself, which of course to shop for us would have kept him in the danger zone and the enclosed grocery store even longer, a risk he was willing to take. Uh, but he wanted to extend himself. His attitude is, I'm younger, I'm stronger. I would stand a better chance. I mean, before we even knew anything about this virus, uh, it appeared for many people to just be, a death warrant. So many people were dying so quickly, and yet he called, and Dorothy got on the other line, and she's like, there's no point in all of us going shopping at the same time. Call Steve and Lisa next door, find out if there's anything that they need, and Craig will go shopping for all of us. All of us. And, really all we needed was a half a gallon of milk. That's literally all we needed. And he brought it home for us, and just left it out in front of the house on the terrace so that we didn't have any face-to-face encounter, no exposure. Um, but that was because of his empathetic nature. Let me put myself in the shoes of Roger and Andrea, who are both, dad was like 85, 86 at the time, about to turn 88 in a few days. Um, and I'm no spring chicken. And it was just so thoughtful because, and he said to me later, he said, you know, I know that you would have been the one to go. You would have uh, done that to make sure that everything that you needed was in the house for your father, but you could also be exposed and bring this home to your father. And because of his advanced age, you know, we need to take the time to think through things a little bit more thoroughly than we do. And that's what Craig did in that particular situation. He and his wife decided that the greatest gift that they could give their friends and neighbors was to go do the grocery shopping for them at a time where our country and the world was in crisis. I will never forget that. I guarantee you, Craig has forgotten that. He's just gone on to do his next good deed and his next good deed. It's who he is, it's how he is. And the same is true of his wife. Um, and if you have people like that in your life, count them among your blessings because they get it and they're tuned in and turned on to the human condition and they're willing to step in and help. Um, it is the kindest expression of higher good, I think. When you live practicing the presence, your presence in this world, when you live that way, um, it doesn't seem so extraordinary or exceptional. It just is. It's just who you are and how you live, and your conscience would never ever allow you to not help when there was an opportunity that presented itself and you were able to do so. It's just natural. Um, and I think that that is the case and the truth of most people. I really do believe that most people are good and kind and generous and pure of heart and just want to help, just want to step in. And we all went through extraordinary stress during that period and a great deal of anxiety and not knowing how this would resolve, how or when it might run its course, not knowing if there was going to be any medical treatment for it, not knowing the wide variety of symptoms that presented with the virus, or no symptoms at all, which was the scariest thing of all. It's one of three viruses known to humankind that it does not perish with its host. Um, and tuberculosis is one of them, Ebola is the other, and COVID, they've discovered lives on in the brain of those that it has infected. That's horrifying to me. It certainly does explain why in the first 2 or 3 months of the pandemic, we lost somewhere between 7 and 800 coroners, medical examiners, funeral parlor directors, because they thought they were dealing with dead bodies, and they were, but they were also dealing with dead, infected bodies. And so they didn't think that they needed to be dressed in hazmat suits in order to do what their job was for end of life care and services. And we found out the hard way that that was the case with this. I mean, it was like every day was a new revelation, and one was worse than the last. And it was a period of very high anxiety. But what I noticed is that people did um, get in touch with the earth again, did go out barefoot in the cool spring grass and feel it. They couldn't go to work, they couldn't go to school. They were trapped at home, but not really trapped at all, as long as there was an outside. and a sky to look into and a planet to walk upon and feel and observe. And it seemed in strange and unusual ways when it felt like we were all closing down like a clamshell. We were actually opening up to other experiences in this life. And what did we have to do? What did we have no choice but to do during this COVID era, this period of time that we all experienced together? We had to practice patience because there was no way to hurry up and get something done when nobody could work with you. I couldn't film, I couldn't really do anything that didn't require either a Zoom or a StreamYard link, with me sitting in my man cave down in Florida, uh, and just interacting with people in a safe setting, which is what this is. Uh, but it taught me to be even more patient than I already was. And anybody who knows me will tell you I'm an extraordinarily patient woman. Um, but I had to take it to another level. I couldn't afford to feel that anxiety. I was already so devastated by the loss of life in this country and around the world, um, that I couldn't let myself go any deeper into the rabbit hole. Uh, and so I had to be patient and just tell myself, we will get through this. We will get through this. When we come out on the other side, nothing will be the same. We will all have been irrevocably changed by the experience of it. And I have found, for the most part, with the people that I know, that this is true. This is a true statement. We've been changed by this. And what we've become is softer. What we've become is less strident, um, less strict with ourselves and others, less demanding. In some ways, kind of lowered our expectations, um, abandoned time frames as though time does not exist. It is utterly irrelevant, which I think is probably the truth about time anyway. So, I'm okay with that. And now I see all that I did, through that period of time when it was safe to work again, when it was safe to gather in small groups and we took the proper precautions and all of that. I started filming 2 years ago, out in the Joshua Tree National Park, out in Yucca Valley, for the piece that's forthcoming, We Are Not Alone, which is in post now. It's coming, I think, October. Uh, and I remember when we were filming and we were gathering and people were keeping their distance from each other, and we had the studio set up in such a way that the camera person was altered the aperture so that it looked like we were closer than we actually were. All the things, all the adjustments that had to be made in order for us to do what we're here to do, but to do it in as safe a way as possible. And I remember thinking, normally we would have just thrown ourselves into this and been all over each other because, we're all friends and, hugs and kisses and stuff. Excuse me just a second. Ginger ale. One of the nectar of the gods right here. Ginger ale. Um, and I remember thinking, maybe we're taking a risk doing this, but it's a risk worth taking. But I had no idea how long it would take for this film to come to fruition. I had no idea uh, if, as is the case with many projects that don't come to fruition at all. The film is taken and it's, canned, um, and then it doesn't become anything for one reason or another. A producer leaves, somebody moves on to another project that shows more promise. It's just how the industry is. And so all you can do is just cross your fingers and hope that you've, made a good choice for the people that you're working with, and that they know what they're doing, and that they have the same vision that you have, and want to impart the message with the same intention. And when you find that combination, which is rare, well, I did, and I ran with it, and allowed all of that experience into my life, and dared to get on a plane and go to California, and dared to get on a plane and go to Nevada, and dared to, you know, life is a calculated risk. Crossing the street, picking up the mail. My God, sometimes the cars go whizzing by so fast. It's like, you better check before you open that thing. People are nuts. Honest to God, they drive like bats out of hell around here. I digress. Um, Life is a calculated risk. But if you approach it, I think, with a certain kind of, uh, yeah, doing yard work. Yeah, our friend Bill, the producer, had an incident while he was doing yard work early this week. So yeah, you just never know when it's just going to kick you between the eyes and you're going down. You just never know. And so I think that to approach life gently, to approach each other gently, with a certain kind of as the Brits say, a gentility. There's something almost regal about it and divine about it, as though the respect that we show each other is just very natural, because what we're doing is we're interacting with others in the same way that we wish to be interacted with, which is another way of saying, do unto others as though you are the others, because to someone you are the others. It's also known as the golden rule. It exists in every, if Jeff were here, he would say, in every liturgical text that's ever been penned, it's there. Um, it's so simple, but it's so elegant. It's so divine by nature, and to my way of thinking, is the greatest revelation. Because when we learn to be kind and loving and generous of spirit with each other, uh, it comes back around. And today I got a phone call where not only did I find out that I get to share at the Upper Peninsula, I get to share part of Beyond the Grave with 1,000 of my closest friends. But there are three more in the pipeline right behind it, and got an offer for my own show today. And I wasn't even really surprised by that. And it wasn't that it was an expectation, because it wasn't. I learned long ago, to temper my expectations lest I be terribly disappointed by life. Um, but it just seemed to fall from the sky. And so I called my dad and I let him know what was happening, and, uh, that it was all good news and things were forthcoming, and all of that. And he's like, yeah, well, we need to make another one. We need to do this. We need to do what's going on at the farm now. We need to. I'm like, okay, that's not how it's going to go. because the universe knows. Just say yes to the universe. Once you're cosmically connected with prime creator, Christ consciousness, call it whatever you will. What happens once you tap into that and you you achieve a certain level of acceptance that it is what it is, it will happen when it does. Everything happens with purpose and reason, and it's right and proper time. It's not a bumper sticker, it's the truth. So, my suggestion to all of you is not to practice what I preach. That's not what it's about. Find your own way and your own comfort level and, get in the zone of you, inside of you. Go there and determine what pace you want to attain and maintain, what you want to achieve. Work toward it, but don't work yourself to death trying to achieve it, because then you lose the pleasure of the process and that element of surprise when the universe smiles upon you and says, "It's today. Today's the day." Surprise. So, with that, I love you all. As I always say, be the beacon, be the light you seek, and with a heart full of love for each and every one of you, I share with you our final thought. Class dismissed.